and welcome to the Life of Purpose. Today we're continuing to look at how to live an authentic Christian life, continuing to work our way through the Beatitudes found at the beginning of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount in the Gospel of Matthew. And today we're moving on to Matthew chapter 5, verse 9, which says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God."
Yeah, I love the message interpretation of this with Eugene Peterson. It says, "Blessed are you when you can show people how to cooperate instead of compete and fight." That's when you discover who you really are and your place in God's family. And then I did a kind of a literal interpretation out of Greek that said, "Happy are those who work toward peace in relationships, for they will be addressed as the authentic offspring of God." And the thought of being the true children of God, what is it that truly makes us children of God? It seems to be related to, can we learn to live in peace? Can we learn to live in what in the Old Testament was shalom?
Right. Yeah, when the Old Testament and in the time of Jesus, there was the word shalom. And now we, of course, use shalom, and the Jewish people use shalom in a lot of ways. And it'll often be that it's shalom. You'll say shalom as a hello, shalom as a goodbye. It's like the old joke about aloha, that aloha meant hello, and aloha meant goodbye, and aloha meant how'd you sleep last night, and aloha meant pick up milk when you go to the store. That aloha means everything. And so shalom sort of has that feel in today's world and how it's used. But in the time of Jesus, one Jewish scholar said that the word in that era truly meant that you are wishing the other person to be completed or to be fulfilled. And so it's not just a warm, fuzzy peace, or hey, tonight when you shalom as you leave, that you're wishing them to have a good night's sleep or something. No, it is wishing that they would be completed and fulfilled, that they would be exactly the person that God created them to be.
And they would be at peace in the deepest part of who they are, and truly at peace with the world. And so being a peacemaker is something that's important. Now, it's important to keep the distinction between a peacemaker and a peacekeeper. To truly be at peace in the depths of one's heart is different from trying to keep peace,
right,
when there are conflicting sides that have no intention of ever living or being at peace with one another.
Yes.
So God calls us to really seek that deeper level of peace, that shalom that is possible. We live in a world, though, that struggles with this. We live in a world that almost thrives on not finding a solution together, but rather seeks to create division and keep unpeace going on as much as possible.
Yeah, the rise of social media. Social media can be a truly wonderful gift. It can keep us connected to people that we would have lost touch with, and because they, for whatever happened, life happens, and we might have lost touch with them, but we're able to stay involved in their lives through social media, and truly has a purpose, I guess, in the world. But it also has a downside. And that is, I don't know that social media would ever be deemed a peacemaker.
No.
Because people can get on social media, and through, even though it's your profile, and they know it's you, through somewhat this distanced feel of social media, you're able to go on and take a polarized stance and just blast people and not seek peace. And when you see someone that you disagree with, rather than having a true conversation that you're trying to figure out how to be at peace with this person and try to make peace in a situation to keep peace, well, you just blast back. And so we live in this world where there's no middle ground any longer, and everyone is ran to the polar opposites and staking their claim to the ends of an argument. And it's really hard because we're called to be peacemakers. We're called to want that other person, even though we might disagree with them. It doesn't mean we hate them. We still want them to be completed, to be fulfilled, to be the person that God created them to be, and to find their way to live out their life of purpose. But some reason or another, social media tends to make us forget that we're be called the children of God when we're peacemakers.
Well, in our broader society, even in politics, you look, the goal no longer is to come to the middle and find solutions to what's happening in national politics or needs that the country may have. It is for one party versus another party to win at all costs, and it's a nuclear option for everybody without really any regard for bringing a sense of wholeness and oneness to our broader community. And so we see that, we see things going on social media, and it's hard to remember that our higher calling is in the midst of all these people who seem to be mad at each other all the time. Our job is to bring peace to it. Now, people who are peacemakers, they focus not so much on controlling, but on cooperation. How can I get people together? They get away from complaining and blaming other people, and instead they're looking for solutions. And instead of gossiping, they go directly to a person and say, hey, what's going on? I heard this. Is this true? What do we need to do about it?
Right.
And,
I mean, and that's the challenge. Being a peacemaker isn't an easy task, because it does require us to to value relationship more than rightness.
Right.
So that we will be willing to go, and rather than talk about someone, which is the easy thing to do, we're actually willing to go and talk to someone, talk with someone about the issue that we have or the problem that we see. And we're trying to make peace with them versus just stirring the pot.
And as pastors, we have conversations with people all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But in some of the more difficult days in churches that you and I've served, it's always amazing to me the people who come in my door and sit down and say, I heard this. I want to talk about this. I'm concerned about this. Mm-hmm. And then they walk out of your office with everybody on the same page,
right,
with things clarified. Whereas you have other folks who, rather than coming directly to you, start all kind of other conversations and rumors and stories. And so I'm always in awe of those people who have the courage to go, I'm not going to play that game. Mm-hmm. I'm going to value this relationship, and I want to find a situation where everybody wins, and there's not a win and loss, but what is good for the whole community.
Yes, and that's a challenge. And I think that it drives us to realize that if we're going to be a person of peace, if we're going to be a peacemaker in our world where we can find happiness, where we can find blessedness, where we can be called the children of God, if we're going to be called peacemakers, then we're going to also have to be called people of prayer. Mm. Because we're going to need God's help in every situation. We're going to need God's help in order to seek peace. And that's probably going to mean in every situation, we have to take out our prejudices. We have to take out what we think and what we want. And we have to be willing to pray that God's will be done. And again, that's not always easy, because we come at it with our own desires and our own hopes for an outcome. But our job is, we're supposed to be peacemakers, and God's will is the ultimate goal in everything.
One of the greatest prayers is that of St. Francis, and it reminds us of the need for peace. And you're right, though. If you start with prayer and truly wanting shalom for another person, it's hard to come to a conclusion where you hate that person.
Right.
Because if you're really a follower of God, you want what's good for them. You want what's good for you.
Right. The other person is made in the image of God just like you. And so when you're in a critical situation and you know there is a contentious situation going on and you know that you're called to be a peacemaker, how beautiful would it be to start your day, or before you go into whatever that situation is, or maybe before you log on to Facebook or whatever social media site it might be. What if you prayed the prayer of St. Francis that says, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we're born to eternal life.
And if we could all start every day with that kind of shalom in our lives, then truly we could experience the joy of being the authentic children of God.
Absolutely.